can guarantee you the level of frequency that a person is on can determine the level of their conscious awareness. Today, we're going to be talking about frequency, understanding conscious location. Learning where people are in frequency is based on their level of consciousness. Understanding where people are in terms of frequency also connects to everything else about them and how they interact with you, how they affect you. And so, as individuals evolve in their awareness and understanding of themselves and the world, their energetic frequency tends to shift accordingly. Based on how people evolve in their understanding and awareness of themselves and the world, their frequency tends to shift accordingly. So if you're with somebody who has a very low vibration or a low energy, they may not see the world the same way you see the world. There is a disconnect energetically, emotionally. They tend to be kind of negative, not to have the proper level of positivity that they need to have an elevated awareness, an elevated level of consciousness. It could be a lot of things that is affecting their ability to grow in awareness and to expand in their consciousness. And so those with higher levels of consciousness, when they operate at a higher vibration frequency, they reflect a greater alignment with positivity. This is not new age. This is reality. We are energetic beings. We're made of energy. And based on that energy, we put out frequencies. We put out emotions. We can connect mentally with people, with one another. And so if we are out of line with one another or with someone, it could be because we need to check their level of awareness and consciousness of the world they live in, how they see it, and how they're responding to it. What is the level of their positivity? What is the level of their negativity? Are they more mutual people? Are they very passive people? Because passiveness and neutrality is no different than low frequencies. This is how we learn to create our reality, by how we see the world and how we interact with one another. And so the more that you're in line with positivity, clarity, and a broader perspective on life, we know that you have a higher level of frequency. And we can know that by your conversation, by the way you talk, by the way you respond to things, by the way you interact with us. We can determine what your level of frequency is and what your level of consciousness is. And so when we look at this concept, it basically suggests to us that the more conscious we are or aware someone is, the more they resonate with frequencies that reflect love, compassion, and interconnectedness. Lower levels of consciousness might be associated with denser, more restrictive frequencies, often tied to fear and judgment or separation, which a lot of people can get from being in religious constructs, where they are always told that they're bad people or they need to do something to cleanse themselves. When we live under those types of frequencies, they affect our reality, how we respond, and how we are in the world. And so it is important for us to locate people's frequency and consciousness before we become involved with them on any level, in any arena. How often we give them access to us, how often we let them speak into our lives and tell us things. We have to become more frequency minded. And so this requires us to recognize where someone is on the spectrum. And this can be insightful. Most people call this discernment. or intuition. But a more practical term is listen to the way people talk. Listen to their lives. Listen to how they are showing up in life. Listen to how often they complain or how often they speak into existence positivity, happiness, joy, love. I used to think these frequencies were, this is just stuff people say. But the reality of it is we live in a polarity. A polarity means that we have choices between high frequencies and low frequencies. They just produce different outcomes and how we experience, feel, intuit, discern, and reflect our frequencies to others. And so we're not talking about right and wrong here as separate things. We're talking about a frequency that is on a spectrum. You have one end of the frequency, the other end of the frequency, and then you have all of the spectrums in between. And so if somebody is on the lower end and they're vibrating in that frequency, then you know what's going to be produced in their life and yours. And so you have to make the determination. Because this understanding, it helps us understand behaviors, motivations, how they relate to the world around them. It also highlights the dynamic nature of consciousness. As individuals can shift and evolve, we can go up and down the spectrum. We can alter our frequencies as we grow and expand in consciousness by what we say, how we desire to see the world around us, how we desire to interact with the world around us. And so if we're not growing, if we're not moving up the spectrum of frequency as far as how we are, our awareness and how we interact in this world and with one another, then we know that we know that we're somewhere on the spectrum. We may as well choose the best place to be, the most highest place to be, where we can be in our highest self, our divine self, that part of us that is divine, that is God, that part of us that is love, that is compassion. And we can denounce or stay away from the lower frequencies because others feel our presence. They can feel us, our energy, and what we bring into the room, what we bring into the space where we all are. So we need to start seeking out people who are on our frequency, on our level of consciousness. Because I can guarantee you the level of frequency that a person is on can determine the level of their conscious awareness. And so this means using your awareness skills to really observe your environment and with others, families, friends, co-workers, etc. All of these people, whoever you come in contact with, do you know even space holds frequency? When someone walks into a room and they leave the room, they leave a level of frequency that you're vibrating on, because we're all like particles. In quantum physics, they talk about the wave and the particles that ride on that wave. And so we are particles on the wave of life, and we produce frequencies as we're moving up and down. And so this means our awareness skills, like I said, has to grow. We have to become more environmentally intuitive. And that means being that around family. We cannot exclude families just because they're familiar. We cannot exclude kin because everyone we come in contact with is on a frequency spectrum. Everyone vibrates on a different level. And that means you encounter different vibratory frequencies with everyone. We have to observe people to know where their level of consciousness lies, because that's how they will vibrate in the world. And that's how they will affect your vibration and how you are interacting, your energy, your emotions, your conversation, how you think about yourself, how you think about them, how you think about the world around you. It's all based on frequency, the spectrum, the polarity of that frequency. Are you at a high vibration level or are you at a low vibration level? Are you neutral? Because we should constantly be moving up higher and higher and higher in our frequency based on the situations that we're in, based on our environments. Sometimes you don't need a high level of frequency or vibration. Sometimes neutral can work for you. Sometimes being on the lower end of the spectrum might work for you if that's where you choose to be. And so being attuned to the frequency of those around us, whether they are family and friends, as we said, is crucial for understanding and navigating our interactions. Each person's vibratory frequency is shaped by their level of consciousness, influences how they show up in the world, their attitudes, decisions, and relationships. Think about it. Would you rather be in a room with someone who is positive, who affirms their authenticity, someone who is looking for abilities to grow themselves, to grow their networks, their businesses, their relationships, someone who sees the world in a more positive light and reacts and responds to the world in that way, receives that from the world and gives it back, because based on our frequency and how we respond, that is what we're creating in our environments and in our world. We can look around at media and we can see that when we are constantly embedded with media and we're constantly inundated with negative media, it bothers our frequency. It causes us to feel low in our vibrations. I'm using vibrations and frequency, but you understand that because you understand when you feel depressed or when you feel sad or when you feel happy. Those are frequencies. Those are levels of emotional frequencies. Those are levels that you're vibrating on. How high is your vibration? And so this heightened observation allows us to gauge the energy they bring into a space and how it might align or even clash with our own. To think that we can walk into a room at a high vibration and we're just excited about being there, and we've already set our intentions for that space and for how we're going to show up, and we walk in the room and we're slapped with this hard, cold, dark, negative, low vibration. You can feel it immediately. Do you know that a person who is in low vibration, when you walk in the room, can feel you and can feel your high level of frequency? So just as someone can affect you negatively, you can affect someone positively and bring a balance to the space. And so that you can match energy as well. So if you're a person who are energetically aligned and aware, then you will know how to operate wherever you go in that frequency. You will know if someone needs to be elevated, if someone needs to be given something positive, or you need to say something that lifts them out of these spaces. And we say, am I my brother's keeper? You are, because you and your brother are on the same frequency wavelength. You're just on different spectrums of it. So how you're affecting the vibration is how they're going to affect, how they're going to receive and respond to it. And so we're constantly interacting with one another vibrationally. And that is how we show up. And so this practice isn't just about discerning differences. It's also about finding resonance, finding those we agree with, finding those we can walk with, finding those we can create new realities with, finding those we can have higher vibrational experiences with, finding those we can experience greater love and transformation in our life, finding those who can support us when we're feeling weak and when we're not as strong vibrationally as we need to be. but consciously and aware, we know that we can raise our vibration. So we seek out those who can help us, right? And so when you align with others of similar frequencies, we create harmonious interactions and deeper connections. Recognizing when someone's frequency is significantly different can help you navigate the relationship and more consciously navigate it. With an understanding of where you might need to set boundaries or adapt your approaches, because sometimes we don't think that the way we approach people affects them, but it does. You can walk into a room and not say anything and affect people in a greater way than you would if you said something. And so we have to learn when people are constantly on this low vibration, when they're constantly on this low spectrum of frequency, of consciousness and awareness, they're going to draw you in because we're energy and we draw from one another. And someone who is weak and who is low in energy will always draw from someone who is high in energy and strong. It's just the nature of who we are. Yes, you can determine how much of your energy and frequency you want to share with someone else, but how often you interact with them. How long do you stay in their presence? How do you change the space when you're there? What do you bring to the space? What do you bring for them that they can grow from? And so we have to learn how to show up in spaces and set boundaries for people who don't want to come up on the spectrum. We have to set boundaries for people who are constantly low vibration, who are constantly negative, who are constantly saying things that don't create the realities that they want or that you want. People who are constantly antagonistic, who don't want to see you grow, who don't want to see you make it or prosper. There are people like that in all of our lives. And if we don't set boundaries to them, we will adapt to them. And when we find ourselves adapting to them, it's often so late because we're brought so low that we have to get in the presence of other people just to energize ourselves. Because we can't do it alone now because someone has completely wiped us out. Have you ever been in the presence of someone or left the presence of someone and just felt completely fatigued, just dry, just like if I have to take another breath or another walk, I'm just going to pass out? Because that person or that environment that you was in was very low in vibration. And it drained you based on how long you stayed in there and how unaware that you were being drained. And often we can feel ourselves being pulled down that frequency spectrum because we can tell by how weak we're getting. How much of our frequency are we losing? How much of our energy are we losing? How negative are we becoming? How deceptive are we becoming? How inauthentic are we becoming? And so this is important to note that this is not about judgment. It's about discernment. It doesn't mean you go around looking at people and say, oh, you're on low vibration. Oh, I can't be around you. You're too negative. Sometimes you need to go into a person's presence to help raise them up. But you have to be more aware when you do that, when you choose to do that, especially when you know that you're about to enter into a space or an environment where you're going to have to make sure that you protect your energy and protect yourself emotionally. You got to set emotional boundaries. You've got to set mental boundaries. You even got to set conversational boundaries. Let people know when they're talking languages or they're talking in ways that don't resonate with you. You don't have to accept it. And if they feel that they have the right to say what they want to say, which they do, you have the right to remove yourself from their presence. And this is so important Because if you don't, then you will always find yourself conforming, and you will find yourself always drained. And so, in order for us to engage with others in ways that we got to engage in ways that are healthy and supportive for both parties. You see what I'm saying? This is not just about you staying high all the time, about you staying in this positive on this spectrum. There has to be balance. Balance is not neutrality. Balance is not passivity. Balance is not conforming. Balance is knowing that you have the ability to raise your frequency when you need to and to balance it and lower it when you need to. You have that ability and you can do that. So you have to become more discerning. And by doing this approach enables you to create environments and relationships, nurture growth and mutual respect that then, other than those things that cause conflict and misunderstanding. Do you know that your frequency determines the world that you are in? You know what that means? And for some of you, maybe you don't. Maybe you don't realize that you create your environment. You create the world that you live in right now. Because you cannot see the world through my eyes. You can only see it through your eyes. You can't see it through anyone else's eyes. Your reality is what you see through your mind's eye. Your reality is how you determine and define your situations. It's how you look at things and what those things mean to you. That is what it means to live in your frequency and shape the world that you have shaped. Yes, we can all see the same things because we all have created and been conditioned to define things the same. But that's the whole point of this channel, is mind over the matrix, moving you out of those conditioned norms, values, and systems that keep you in a puppet attitude where you're constantly just going about robotically, allowing everything that comes into your life, allowing you to just be reactive and not proactive in your life. And so the vibratory frequency you resonate at determines your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and your level of consciousness. Essentially, you're going to have to filter and create your reality. And so you filter by filtering through your thoughts, filtering through becoming emotionally intelligent, challenging beliefs that don't resonate with you. These are levels of expanding your consciousness. These are levels where you are moving into spaces where you're moving beyond the programming.